everybody. Welcome to another episode of 10,000 Roads to Financial Independence. Today, I have Kim Zomer Egelsee with me today. And Kim is a confident expert, and she's a TEDx speaker, first and then number one best-selling author and a coach and a podcast host. Kim, thank you so much for joining us today. And then she has a lot to kind of share today. And she's also, one of her best-selling books is Getting Your Life to a 10 Plus. So I'm very excited to kind of dive into the mindset and et cetera that helps people get into 10X today with Kim.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Awesome. So Kim, we always ask our guests this question, which is who in your life and what incidences give you the most impact and shaping the entrepreneur who you are today?
Yeah, that was definitely Jim Rohn, and a lot of you out there who are into personal development know who he is. He was the one that taught Tony Robbins, and he sadly passed on, but I did get to meet him. I got to see him for the first time when I was 18.
Wow.
And that really shaped me, goal setting and really planning for the future and believing in myself and things like that. I didn't yet know I was going to do that for a living, but we continued to go see Jim Rohn and other greats like John Maxwell, different people like that. And so fast forward, I start life and business coaching, and I get into contact with someone named Kyle Wilson. And he is Jim Rohn's 18-year business partner.
Wow.
And worked with Jim Rohn, did tons of projects with him through the years, and ended up connecting with Kyle, realizing that for years we were buying copies of 12 Pillars by Chris Widener and Jim Rohn and giving them out to people through Kyle. And so I ended up serendipitously working with Kyle and launching one of Kyle's big projects out here in LA and filling up an event for him. And we partnered on several of my online courses that I have now, including a life coach certification that I offer. So I feel like it went in a circle. Like when I was 18, I started seeing Jim Rohn. I went into that field, and then I ended up working with his 18-year partner.
Wow, that's amazing. It's an amazing journey to have. You probably have a goal set for yourself, and then getting there very intentionally.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what is a life coach, Kim? Can you help us kind of understand that? Because for some of our listeners, they're like so much into like investments and all that stuff. What is a life coach?
Right. I mean, I would say that there's definitely a difference between if someone books me for business coaching versus specifically life coaching. And I feel like life coaching is not necessarily therapy, although you do talk about what's going on. But I ask the right questions and help you to see deep into your own mindset, into your own heart, past the ego, into your consciousness, to find out what you really want, what limiting beliefs are holding you back, what's causing you stress, and how to let go of it. Dig deep and find out any fears that are there, because sometimes we're not achieving something, or we're feeling out of sorts, and we are lost as to why. Why do I keep hitting that roadblock?
Right.
Why am I feeling out of sorts? And a lot of times it's stuff to do with an old relationship or what someone told you in school, or it might just be one year where you had a bad boss, and so I help you get to that place.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think I'm definitely a subscriber of mindset is kind of everything, because that kind of anchored and give you the ability to achieve your dream. And so what do you do differently between business coach and life coach? Because sometimes when you find coaches, they're life coach, and then the business, a lot of people think about like ROIs, like all that sort of stuff. It's a very different kind of gear.
Right.
And then
I would say, I mean, sometimes it is combined because it goes hand in hand. You've got to have your personal life together to succeed in business for the long term,
Right.
and vice versa. It all helps each other. But I definitely work on getting clear on who you are, how you're being viewed by people. Your confidence definitely is huge. Your mindset, different things about how are you marketing, how are you portraying your brand, what is your mission and life purpose statement, different things like that. A lot of times it's getting clear on what you're going to offer under your umbrella for whatever your business is, stuff like that.
That's awesome. And tell me a little bit about getting your life to a 10 plus.
Yeah,
What is in the book? Yeah.
my first book is Getting Your Life to a 10 plus, and then I wrote a sequel called Living the 10 plus life, which is after you feel like
Reach the
you've kind
10
of gotten
plus.
there.
Yeah.
And really the philosophy is that every area of your life can feel like it's at a 10 or even better. Like you say, okay, everything is finally really going great. So if something else comes in, it's even more a bonus. Like it's possible to get even better. And of course, we're going to have hiccups, we're going to have life problems and challenges, and that's normal and that's okay. But overall, in general, we have the power to make the choices and to shape our lives to be what we really want it to be. And so each chapter goes into how to get there. One of my favorites is really being aware of what are you doing every single day, and are all of your choices making you feel alive and aligned with who you are, and are you finding ways to add enjoyment to them? Otherwise it's going to fizzle out and make you miserable.
Mm.
And a lot of people are in that place where they're like, oh, I used to like what I do, but now I'm just in this mode of hating my job and being moody. And so it's really helping you get to that place where you're really enjoying and in harmony with everything daily.
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. It's kind of like finding the balance and happiness within kind of what you do already. Versus oftentimes people, we have a lot of audience that kind of focus on, hey, I want to reach a FI, but not really knowing what that really look like. And then they could end up going super hurry, going to some places, and then go being there and find out, oh, it's just kind of the same. Like didn't really change fundamentally how I feel. So, like in your years of coaching, what would you say the biggest part of helping someone realizing they need to work on? They're like they needed the life coach themselves, right?
Right. Well, I mean, I think definitely I've been doing this for about 17 years. I think that a lot of times people book a session not really knowing why. They're just like, I feel like I need something. And
Right.
so that's helpful because I can ask a lot of questions and help them get to that place. And one of the biggest questions is that makes them realize, oh my gosh, I need to figure this out is, are you feeling inner peace
Mm,
every day,
mm,
throughout the day? Or
right.
instead, are you feeling stress, overwhelm, chaos, challenges regularly, which there's good challenges and then there's the stressful challenges.
Right.
So I think that asking them, are you feeling inner peace and balance? Do you feel like you have limiting beliefs or negative thoughts coming in all the time? Those are some key things to ask to find out if you need life coaching, because those can be fixed and healed and give you
Mm,
so much freedom and so much space for more success to come in. And then, like what you were just saying, when they get that success, they'll actually enjoy it and
mm,
feel like their whole life went up, rather than, oh, I achieved my goal. That was great for a few hours. And now I feel the same.
right. Right. Yeah. Actually, I was thinking this is kind of asking for a friend of mine. Like one of my business partner has told me about this. He's like, well, I'm always really good at coming up with goals. And then the thing about coming up with goals and achieving them is like we hit them, but somehow you then move on to the next goal, and then like it kind of miss a piece of like when I reached the goal. So now we reached the goal. I guess the next thing to do is setting the next goal. So it was very interesting. Like, do you have tips that you can share with him in terms of like how do you actually like salivating or celebrating your success over there?
Right, right. I think, yeah, and I think it can be kind of addicting to be like, okay, I got this goal, I got this goal, and that's fine. That's amazing if you're achieving your goals. But I think having fun and enjoying the process, and it sounds so crazy, but it actually takes the practice of regularly, like maybe even as much as like 10 times a day, checking in with yourself and going, okay, the next thing I'm going to do, what does that mean to me? What am I
Mm,
getting out of this? Am I
mm,
inspiring someone? Does it feel mentally challenging? Does it feel like I'm accomplishing something? Not just do. Okay, I did it. Okay, I'm
mm,
I'm excited for a few hours and that's it. So if
right.
you really enjoy the process, then you hit the goal, you're gonna go, wow, the whole thing was so meaningful. You're gonna feel the results much longer.
Hmm.
Um, because it's not all about just like a lot of people get into such go-getter mode that they forget that it really the purpose in life is also to be happy and peaceful and,
Yeah.
connection with people, have harmony. And so what does it all really mean unless you have a balance of all of it? And so that's
Right.
also what a life coach can do, is help you for you. What are your values? What's important to you? Because then you're going to be able to take that goal and say, wow, even though I already finished it and I'm going to the next one, I'm feeling the vibes of that for like a few years to come. Like, it's so meaningful.
Yeah, definitely. Now, switch gear a little bit, Kim. I'm actually very curious. How does someone, because, life coach is something I'm not very familiar with. I've heard about. Everybody knows Tony Robbins, right? So, but there's many other non-Tony Robbins. So how does someone start it to even embark on this career, like on this entrepreneur-like career? Yeah.
Right. I mean, I think it has to start with going, what do I want to do? And if one of the things that's really just in your heart is to help others and to want others to be happy, I feel like then it's something that you would look into. Like, there's plenty of things that can make people happy, but if it's solving their issues or problems and helping them see the best in themselves and things like that, then there's many ways. I mean, I have a life coach certification program.
Mm,
When I started, got certified by several people in different modalities like NLP and hypnotherapy and healing, just different things, because I wanted to be able to combine it all into my own methods.
mm,
And reading just lots of books and, different things to inspire me, and just gathering that all and taking it with me to my clients.
mm.
So it really was more like, okay, I'm going to become this because I want to be able to help people learn how to figure themselves out
Mm,
and become more confident, because confidence can be learned.
right.
So I think that was really like, that's the main thing that people have to look for, is, do you want to be able to help others be happy?
Definitely. And then it comes into, like this is the area where I'm very curious too, is like, how do you then get your message out there, right? Because there's so many noises in the world here. And how do you kind of get this out there to the world, in terms of marketing, in terms of like, you know, getting your leads and etc. How do you do it?
Right, right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like anything, there's various ways. And of course, there's ways where you can buy sponsored packages through Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, all of those. I think, to me personally, the issue with some of them is they have these packages and they send out these cookie cutter messages that everyone's using, and then it's not personable at all.
Yeah.
And so for me, I prefer like speaking at events, going to networking events and meeting people,
Mm,
using social media to build a community, a lot of groups, Facebook groups,
yeah.
having people feel like they know, like, and trust me, even if they're across the world,
Hmm.
because of my posts, because of my interacting with them, referrals and newsletters.
Yeah.
I think all of that, and then you put books out there, or YouTube, or I also have a podcast. All of it combined ends up in the result of the compound effect, where it
Hmm.
starts coming in for you.
Got it. And when you first started, like any small business, what is your first year like?
I remember, this is funny that you asked that. You have such good questions. I was really scared because it was new. And
Right.
I remember I was like, okay, I didn't even know about going to networking meetings or anything. And I had all my stuff ready to life coach. I felt prepared,
Yeah.
but I was like, who do I ask? So I had about 100 and something emails of people I knew. So
Yeah.
I sent out, this is what I'm doing now. If you know anyone, or if you want to take advantage, these are my rates. This is what I'm offering. And I immediately that day got 2 clients.
Nice.
And so I remember I was like, wow, it's already starting. And I have this big notebook full of notes on how to do it, because I was not, it was new to me still.
Yeah.
But after that, it took off because I got referred, and then I learned about going to networking groups.
Hmm.
I started really getting good at social media. So I feel like the first year was a slow start. I did some free stuff more than usual,
Hmm.
but it took off from there because I think people started to see that I'm genuine.
Hmm.
And I lead with my heart, and so I really look into someone's heart and go, what do they need, what do they want? Not
Right.
like a lot of people go into, how do I make money, How do I advertise? How do I get famous? How do I become an
Right.
influencer? And
Right.
sometimes that shows too. You know what I mean? And so it just
Yeah.
depends on what you're looking for.
Yeah, because the genuine, the authenticity and the genuine, yeah, you know, like that part of it's really, people kind of can feel that. And then
Yeah.
the referrals are kind of the best leads coming from there.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, you started with first year. First year is always the slowest. And then you hit at the next stage of the business. In terms of hiring your first employees and etc. How do you kind of scale up, or what are challenges that you kind of facing in terms of scaling up, and how did you kind of overcome it from, you know, one single person to, let's say, whatever organization you have on the next step?
Right. Back then, I was doing my own events every month in LA and Orange County for a few years in a row. And so I did have employees, but a few of them were, I got interns. And so that was helpful
Yeah.
because they were getting credit at school, but then I was having somebody be able to do stuff.
Yeah.
But the employees were there, and I would make enough, you know, to be able to pay everything and pay the overhead. And I wasn't bringing in that much for myself then because it was a lot of overhead and
Yeah.
and things like that. And then I ended up stopping the live events like that because I started working with the Jim Rohn's partner guy, Kyle.
Right. Yeah.
Doing my online stuff.
Yeah.
And so then I scaled down and started using virtual assistants. Like right now for my podcast, I have a marketing and PR person that we use. We have a producer that we use. And then I have virtual assistants I use when I need to, but I don't have like specific employees regularly.
Yeah, yeah, which is really kind of a way to kind of be lean and in the business over there.
If
for
it's
sure.
not needed.
Yeah, exactly. How did you end up on the TEDx?
Yeah, that was a blessing. I had just been learning about what that is, what TED Talks are, and my friend was doing one, and we started talking about it a lot. And she's like, "Oh, I can coach you on what you do." And it came in before anything started with her. I had been speaking for a nonprofit for women's. It was called like Women Empowerment. And, you know, going to a bunch of their nonprofits. So they featured me on their website, and the TEDx organizer saw and looked me up and asked me to do it before my friend had even helped me. And so, yeah, it was really wonderful. And what was so special about it was that it was TEDx Youth. And so I did it. I spoke live at a high school and geared my talk to be toward more young people. What I went through when I was young and how I built confidence and positive power. And so, but the great thing about it is if you can get something like that, like if you write a book, if you do a TED Talk, you know, or you get asked to speak on a panel with some names that are known, you can use that for like 30 years as your credibility. And so that's been nice is because I can just say, you know what, I'm a TEDx speaker forever. And that gives you credibility to get more, you know,
instantaneously,
whatever, clients, opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, you know, you kind of did TV hosting as well, right?
Yeah.
So how did you kind of start doing that?
I started as an actor and a host and model, and I was even in a rock group, and I, you know, was in Screen Actor. I'm still in Screen Actors Guild and all of that. And I realized that I like hosting, but I don't really like acting because it's not being myself. I like to be able to just let go and be myself. And so I did some stuff way, way back. And then when I got into this realm of personal and spiritual development, then the Hallmark Channel did a series, like a web series on getting your life to a 10 plus. And that was it was called Spirit Clips. And they did that. That was quite maybe 9 years ago. And then I got asked to co-host an international talk show for a while. And that was aired in a bunch of countries to millions of people. So that was really cool as well. And then I had a couple of my own web series. But now I'm doing my podcast, and I love that the most out of all of it. So it's funny, and that's like yours where it's on YouTube as well. But I have fallen in love with podcasting.
Why out of all these that you enjoy the podcast the most? What does the podcast kind of brings you in terms of happiness? Because you mentioned you enjoyed that the most. Why is so?
Yeah, I think that the subject matter is really about helping people find their purpose and their truth, and it's called Talk, Purpose, and Truth, and it's helping people figure out who they are and who they want to be. And we get celebrities and talk to them about really vulnerable mental health things, things that they're scared of. And so it makes people feel not alone in the world. It makes people
Mm-hmm.
feel like, oh, they've done that too. They've experienced that too. And so I think I love it the most because it's so real and honest. And so
Mm-hmm.
if it was on regular TV, I think I'd be just as happy. But I like the content.
Yeah, maybe a little bit more scripted on the TV. Is it true that
Yeah.
that's
Yeah, the
yes.
reality shows.
Yeah.
I actually got asked, this is crazy. I got asked about 4 years ago to be an OC housewife. And I live in OC. And I
Wow.
turned it down because I was honored. I'm like, wow, that's really a compliment, but it does not match me, who I am.
Yeah, with the
And
housewife, the personality
right.
of
And it was
housewife.
funny because I was with a friend at a tea house yesterday and they were filming an episode of Real Housewives of Orange County. And I was in the background and I laughed. I'm like, see, I could have been one of them. And I'm like, it's okay. I'm good.
Yes. Yeah, because I can't imagine you being titled housewife because you're such a like a independent entrepreneur, like
And
female
I don't
entrepreneur
like
yourself.
fighting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. Some fighting, that's scripted fighting required,
Right.
probably. Yeah. So what is can you share with us a few memorable episodes that you know, if our listener would start listening to your podcast that you would highlight really on, like you're like, oh, that one is really good. Can you share some a couple of the episodes that why you
Yeah,
think
of
they're,
course.
yeah.
We just did one. Most of the time, my co-host and I, we interview celebrities and health experts, different mental health experts, things like that. But sometimes we do our own, and we did one between the two of us called 8 Ways on Getting Unstuck, and it was very popular because a lot of people after the pandemic felt very stuck with like not knowing what to do next or trapped in fear or whatever it might be.
Mm-hmm.
Just scared of however the world is right now. And so it's a really unique episode in that it gives you solutions if you're stuck. Another one that was really fascinating, we interviewed Jeremy Jackson, who was on Baywatch growing up as a child through teen, and how he got through a lot of things like addiction and real strong challenges in his life. And he's just such a really kind, unique, wise person now. And he was just fascinating, and he helps people through their struggles now. So I would say those. We've interviewed a lot of people that are related to the artist Prince, like his music director, a couple of people who wrote books about him. So that's been really fascinating as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I don't think I asked this, but Kim, how does people check out your podcast?
We're on every single platform, all of them, Spotify, iTunes, and we have a website, talkpurposeandtruth.com.
talkpurposetruth.com. So we're gonna be putting that on our show notes over here.
Thank you.
For our listeners and the viewers to kind of enjoy Kim's some of these great episodes that she has mentioned over here.
Oh, I should mention we did have Brad Roth, who's a real estate expert, on like a few months ago. So look for Brad Roth.
Oh, yeah. Brad Rock. Okay, great, awesome. And Kim, like I was wondering, like in terms of like your book, tell me a little bit more about the book, Getting Your Life to a 10 Plus. So let's kind of get into this a little bit more.
Yeah, I think my favorite for people listening that a lot of people forget is your communication and how you're talking to others and yourself. And yeah. I learned a lot of this through New York, who studied with Tony Robbins. And we tend, as especially Americans living in America, we tend to use the word stressed and overwhelmed a lot because it's trendy. It makes us seem busy or in demand or whatever. But if we can just shift those words, then our whole entire physical being are going to feel better. So if instead of saying I'm stressed out, I have so much to do, I have so many projects, I'm stressed out, I'm overwhelmed, you want to say I'm challenging myself to be even greater.
Oh, and I already feel better. Yeah, I'm already feeling better.
Right? And I'm in demand. Because if you say I'm overwhelmed, your shoulder is hunched down, you look disempowered, you end up telling the cells in your body this, and it's a low vibration. It makes you disempowered. So you want to say I'm in demand. I am challenging myself to be even greater. I got this. Yeah. Another one would be, instead of saying I'm so frustrated, you want to say something like, I'm fascinated and intrigued as to why this is happening. Like if a server at a restaurant is rude to you, you might automatically go, oh, that's so frustrating and irritating.
Yeah.
And instead of punishing yourself by getting all riled up, you want to say, okay, I'm intrigued. What's going on here? Maybe I can uplift their day or tune in and figure out why they're acting this way. And then I'm not going to punish myself and get all riled up by it, you know?
Yeah.
So, communication, I have a whole chapter on that because we tend to use low energy, low vibration words and end up making ourselves feel down or blah
Hmm.
and end up needing a nap, end up getting moody, all because of how we're talking to ourselves or others.
Yeah, yeah. And then so, we just went through a pretty difficult time with COVID. What are the things that you think, the top things that you come to mind that you help people kind of get unstuck over these situations where you feel kind of powerless in terms of the things that around you, not really within your control.
Right. And
You know,
I think that focus is really big. Like you have to get into different habits because we like I used to never even I don't anymore, but I used to never watch the news. And during the pandemic I did a lot because of
mm,
course we want to know we're in lockdown. We want to know what's going on in the world.
yeah,
But that's gonna a lot of times we watch too much news, that's gonna make us feel low or depressed or stuck.
mm,
Because we're going to say, wow, I'm going to start seeing the world as this scary, evil, challenging place where I step outside and get sick or whatever.
right.
And so a lot of it, yeah, maybe some of it is true, but a lot of it has to do with our focus. And we have to
Mm,
remember what we focus on will grow. And so let's say you spend a week watching the news and then the next week you spend turning off the news and instead of the news you have music playing. Which week are you going to see the world better? You know,
right.
and so a lot of it is deciding to change our habits and change our focus to be better and more uplifting. And it's funny because we tend as humans to say, ah, it's too hard to do that. That's too much work.
Mm,
When in reality, it's a lot harder. It's much harder on our mind, body, and soul to be focused on the negative, complaining, oh, that's reality. Life sucks. Well, okay, what is that going to do? That's not going to do anything.
right.
And I allow myself that 20% of the time or 10% of the time where I do vent sometimes, or I will scream into my pillow or whatever, some kind of good, stress relief. Gosh,
Yeah,
I had a bad day and this sucks, but
right.
then you have to allow yourself that, but then give yourself time to snap out of it and have a great week.
Mm,
Don't let it affect your whole week, month, or year.
yeah.
And so I think focus is really big on getting unstuck and then habits as well.
Mm. And then do you have tips for people to kind of reconnect? Because a lot of this time is like isolation, feeling demotivated, because when you feel isolating on your journey, for example, to FI, some of our members kind of talked about, hey, we feel like demotivated,
Yeah.
and then just can't feel like unstuck on that. So how do you kind of deal with that? Do you have suggestions on
Yeah.
for a listener to kind of
That
feel
is a
more
great question.
connected?
And it's so common because we need connection as humans. That actually gives us different, serotonin and dopamine and all the different, things we need to feel uplifted and good, as long as it's a positive group, right? Or a
Right.
person. So you
Yeah.
want to be careful to be around people that you feel uplift you, support you, encourage you, and you
Mhm.
them. But I did research during the pandemic, and it was around 60% of the people that I talked to were alone, and a lot of them didn't even have a pet and weren't
Mm.
seeing anyone. And so it's almost like you have to get in reintroducing yourself to society and connecting, and it almost feels weird.
Yeah.
And so I would start slow and just, if you guys have Zoom groups or online groups, pick one or two people and say, hey, do you guys are you okay with going out and getting coffee outside or whatever
Mm.
you're comfortable with? But sometimes you do have to make that first move of just like, do you want to go grab a lunch or a coffee? And even if you feel like you don't have enough time, it's important to make time to do that or to join an in-person group if you can.
Mm.
Whatever you feel safe with, because it does make you have a better week and a better,
Yeah.
business life as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And oftentimes, we talked about the journey to FI. We kind of explore a lot of that in our topics with our audience and memberships and stuff. But one thing I kind of noticed too is you kind of get into this really exciting, it kind of goes in cycle, right? Like you get really excited, you're like, oh, I discovered like a new concept. Same probably with the clients to you. Oh, I discovered like a new life coach, like go, go, go. Like, so then at around 2 months and 3 months into it, you start hitting a block, because it's probably your old habit kind of gets into the way, or your work gets, in our case it was that work got in the way. That was always like, work got in the way, I don't have enough hours to do stuff. And then
Right.
you could get yourself slip into that same old habits that you have. What are some of the tricks that you would share with us that help you kind of get re-energized into, because perceivably a FI journey will take you 5 years, 10 years to get there, which is still very short compared to 30
Mm-hmm.
years. But you have to kind of keep on going and making these extra activities to set yourself up financially for that.
Right.
So what are the some stuff where you feel like when you go into the cycle can help you kind of unstuck yourself or get remotivated? Is there any
Right. I
tricks,
think that,
tips?
I think in the back of your mind, a couple of things. I think that if you have a strong why, which a lot of you know that with goal setting, but you really have to know what it is so that it pulls you toward it and toward your goal, so that it's not an option to slack off or to procrastinate or fall off the personal development wagon, success wagon, whatever.
Yeah.
So your why, I think it's also great to have a purpose statement or a mission statement in the back of your mind of why, because even though it's just for you, it's there all the time and you remind yourself constantly. Maybe it's written down in a few places. And so that's good. Also, reminding yourself, what are some times where I really shined and I really felt like I did great that month or that year?
Mm.
What was I doing that year? What was different? Is there anything that I've stopped doing that really was working well? How did that feel? How is it making me feel? Reminding yourself, because you want to make sure you keep doing what's working. And then you can if you keep evaluating, and being self-aware, then you're able to go, okay, well, maybe for a few days I fell off and, wasn't doing as well, but I get
Right.
right back up. And,
Right.
and so I think it's inherently already knowing and seeing the finished, results and why and what you're going to get when you get there is going to pull you to get to
Gotcha,
that.
gotcha. So it's like positive reinforcement versus like try to beat down on yourself on that. Because
Right.
we kind of notice that sometimes, right? And so Kim, now here's a question for your business. Where are you seeing yourself in 5 years, or the whatever the midterm is? So for some people it may be 10 years, maybe for some people 5 years, maybe 3 years. Where do you kind of see yourself like on your next stage?
Right. In 5 years, in the next 5 years. I really love doing what I'm doing. So I would love to continue seeing, I see a lot of clients. So I'd love to see clients. I have stopped doing live events for the last year and a half, 2 years because of COVID.
Yeah.
So I am excited to have masterminds again. I lead mastermind groups, sometimes 5 at a time in all different locations.
Wow.
So I'd love to go back. I know I'm going to be going back to that. Live events and retreats, and then my podcast growing and growing as it's been doing. So I want to continue doing that and get it on a bigger platform even. So
yeah, to impact more people.
Right.
And so how does people get connected? Do you have virtual events currently? How does people kind of get connected? Because you mentioned you have some online stuff as well. Tell us a little
Right.
bit more about that. Yeah.
During COVID, I spoke at a ton of Zoom events and virtual events. In the last couple months, I've had a few. I have done a few live talks as well. I'm supposed to be at a couple of live events coming up, but I don't have the exact info yet because it's not mine.
Yeah.
So I don't personally have any coming up until January, February. So it would be more like able to find it on my website once it's ready.
Gotcha. And which is
KimLifeCoach.com.
KimLifeCoach.com. Okay, we'll put that on the show notes as well. And I see there's a lot of good stuff on your website over here that I'm kind of checking out over here. And Kim, here's a very interesting topic. Do you have kids around you?
Yes, I have 2 daughters. One is 9 and one is 15.
That's awesome. And then what is it like a female entrepreneur with 2 kids, growing up? How do you kind of reach the balance?
Yeah, and my husband, helps as well. Luckily, like we're happily married, and I feel the results that my kids, I see them being leaders and being very confident. And that's so beautiful because I'm like, I see things I've taught them coming out of them and
Mm-hmm.
in their grades and what they're doing in school. So I feel like it's only been positive. I've involved them in different things like helping with events or helping with my podcast.
Yeah.
I do have some weeks here and there where I choose to kind of try to make the work like split into 4 weeks because I work a little bit less sometimes because of different events they have going on. So I feel blessed that being an entrepreneur, you can do that
Yeah.
easier than if you were working for someone.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I feel like it's only been positive. I wouldn't want to be working for someone right now because it would be harder to be a balanced mom.
Yeah, and be intentional about what events you attend or not attend. That kind of gives you a little bit more control over that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we always ask our guests this too, kind of going a little full cycle, is like, what are you kind of doing right now to kind of educate your kids about fiscal responsibilities or, financial kind of independence, that type of concept? Is there
Right. Yeah.
exercise that you get them to do? Yeah.
We've done the rule of like splitting it between 10% to give it to charity and some for yourself and some to save.
Hmm.
And so my older one has an account and does that. The younger one is starting to figure all of that out and learn that. Like we're trying to be strict. And then with them earning their own money and having to pay for some things by themselves. And my older daughter is already working a little bit.
Uh-huh.
So that's teaching her as well. Like, oh wow, I made this much money. And she actually dresses up as Moana for parties and she looks like Moana because
Wow.
my husband is Hispanic, so she looks
Oh,
more like Hispanic.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
so she's making good money doing that. And I'm like, well, now you have to buy your prom dress or and
Yeah.
so she's like, oh wow. So it's a good way to teach them is by actually showing them and then by doing.
Right. That definitely, definitely. And Kim, thank you so much once again. You can check out Kim's, courses and, the shows and events that's coming up, all the goodies, at kimlifecoach.com. And Kim, well, thank you so much for today and sharing your precious time with us. And
Thank you.
it's a lot of good tips that we kind of unpacked over here, for a lot of listeners that could be very useful to kind of get over this kind of challenging time as well. And if you want to get more involved, with what Kim does, again, check her out on the kimlifecoach.com and also her podcast as well. Kim, once again, what is your podcast called, and where do people find it?
Yeah, they can just go to talkpurposeandtruth.com and they'll find it.
That's awesome. Talkpurposetruth.com, show's name. Well, thank you so much, Kim, for your time today. And then,
Thank you. I really enjoyed it.
awesome. And then we're wrapping up another 10,000 Roads to Financial Independence.
Thank you, everyone.